So yesterday, you had to read chapter 3. Okay, so you could have read it with me. And then you did this organizer. Okay, and it was looking at chapter 3. Then you had to do your these questions, and some of them. Okay, ooh, awesome! Most of you guys, as you notice, it says pending. I'm going to work on your guys' grade today, so this afternoon I'm going to get all the grades updated. But you had to think about briefly, where does the story take place? Some of the characters. I want you to tell me the conflict, put these things in order. And like we talked about, and I mentioned in the video, I wanted you to write what some of those conflicts are. Okay, so today, what we're going to do, let me go back to Schoology. Leave, and show you what our baseline, our agenda is for the day, our agenda. So we're going to watch a little bit of landscape of history again. And if you notice, this piece of paper yesterday, this evidence organizer, and what we're going to do is gather evidence for our future evidence. So we're starting to get evidence that there was a conflict or a problem. Mm-hmm. Am I really glitchy still? Something's loading. Okay, is it better? Okay.
Yeah.
So, am I still glitchy? It shouldn't be anymore. So, what we're going to do is...
but not as bad as you were before.
Yeah, when things load up on my computer, it uses a lot of bandwidth. So, I don't know why. But we're going to watch this video again. You've already seen it. And we're going to gather evidence about this conflict. Okay, so remember how I've pulled out evidence in the past of, we know because our conflict is between, our big conflict is between the Europeans and the Nez Perce. And if you notice, I have gathered evidence about some of those articles that we've read in the past. I think it was, what, 3... let me see, 3A was the article with settlers, ranchers. It was 3B maybe. Yep, a new nation comes to Indian country. So I've gathered evidence from there. I have gathered evidence from my book at this evidence, or of this conflict. So the white men moving in, we talked about how the general is coming too. And we recorded some evidence, some quotes yesterday on what they might mean. So we are going to gather more evidence today. Ooh, I forgot to get, I was all ready with this video, but I forgot to grab our PowerPoint for today. So how about while I gather the PowerPoint, I want everybody to find and open up or put Notability, so find your workbook or open up 16A. Okay, so find 16A. I'm going to be glitchy for a second. Put this Notability or find 16A. Yeah, that happened with a good book. From lesson 16. There's nothing on the handout of 16A?
I just found it in my notebook.
In your book? Did I not link it? Is that what you're saying, Mark? Oh, you're right. Let me look. 16A.
Yeah.
For some reason, something just went wrong with my internet. Okay, so I can't find 16A, like, because it's not posted.
Either I can't find it.
I'm posting it now. Okay, you load your page and 16A. If you're in your workbook, remember you can just take a picture of your workbook when you're done. Good, things are downloading.
Shall we just do it in our workbook?
If you want to do it in your workbook, that's perfect for me. So if you want to just do it in your book, that works. So here's what we're going to do. We've got this beautiful book by Rolling in the Mountains. We found out why it was thunder rolling in the mountains in chapter 3. I had no idea. And I was really excited. Really quickly, can somebody tell me who is thunder rolling in the mountains?
Sound of Running Feet's dad.
Yeah, so what's his name? What's his, I guess, Christian name?
Joseph.
Chief Joseph.
Chief Joseph. Yeah. So we're going to start, you can have that piece of paper open or your 16A. And what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you these questions, and I want you to think about it as we are watching our video again. So we've seen this video, and it is the landscape of history, so it talks about the settlers moving west. I want you to think about these 3 things. Why, and now we've already talked about some of these. So why did the settlers begin moving west into the Nez Perce homeland? How did the U.S. government support the settlers, so the white people, to move into the Nez Perce homeland? And then what did they do against the Nez Perce? Now, we learned about it in chapter 3 a little bit too. And then what is the government action? So we've done 1 and 2, but I want you to take it a step further. What do the government's actions show you about the land, what the land meant to the U.S. government? What does this tell you about the beliefs and values that the European Americans had during the 1800s? So what was important to them as they took this land? Does that make sense? So we're going to watch. We've already watched this part from
native
so
north and south along.
And I want you to think about again why did they move? How did the government support the settlers, and what do they do with the Nez Perce? And then why do you think this land was so important to the government? Okay, and like I said, a lot of this we have looked at. Okay, we're going to share these briefly after
the Bitterroot Range, encompassing the rugged Lochsa and Selway drainages and the extensive Salmon River country. It was, and still is, a beautiful and abundant land, rich in wildlife, productive forests, and lush meadows. Nez Perce ancestors thrived here for thousands of generations. The story of the Nez Perce conflict began with the arrival of white men in the early 1800s. The Nez Perce aided explorers Lewis and Clark, and they traded with early fur trappers. Christian missionaries lived among them. Early settlers knew and respected the Nez Perce as skillful horse breeders, hunters, and warriors. For 50 years, the Nez Perce and their new neighbors lived together, side by side. By 1855, increasing numbers of settlers looking for land and prosperity expanded into Nez Perce country. That year, Washington Territorial Governor Isaac Stevens established a Nez Perce reservation of nearly 12,000 square miles, preserving much of the tribe's native homeland. Just 5 years later, prospectors encroaching on Nez Perce land discovered gold, and the U.S. government demanded new treaty talks. In 1863, new negotiations led to a tenfold reduction of land for the Nez Perce. Several bands whose traditional lands were not included in the reservation refused to sign the treaty. They became known as the non-Nez Perce. Divided, the Nez Perce tribe became increasingly under pressure from home and the U.S.
We have to stop doing the reactions because then we can't hear it. Super glitchy. People keep doing the reactions.
Refused to sign the treaty. They became known as the non-treaty Nez Perce.
How many did I say yesterday that there was the non-treaty? 170? Yeah. So there.
I think so.
Yep.
Now divided, the Nez Perce tribe became increasingly vulnerable to pressure from homesteaders and the U.S. government. For over a decade, the non-treaty bands refused to leave their lands, but tensions mounted with growing numbers of settlers, and in 1877, the Army ordered the non-treaty Nez Perce to move on to the reduced reservation near Lapwai, Idaho. Of the 750 Nez Perce, most were women, children, or elderly. They took with them their 2,000 horses and all their belongings. In the months...
Okay, so, that kind of reconnects with what we've been reading about. So the Lapwai, so we had these non-treaty Native Americans that refused to go, and eventually they were forced to go. And they're mostly men, women, and children, and there are many horses. Okay, so I'm going to ask at random some of these people to explain one of these, or somebody to explain one of these questions, okay? So I'm going to try picking, where is a lot of our class today? Man. So I'm going to randomly pick people. I've got my destiny sticks, and I want you just to tell me, and I will allow you to choose if you want to do 1, 2, or 3. Just tell us, for number 2, okay, the government supported settlers, or for number 3, I could see that the government's actions meant that, or why did they move? So tell me. Okay, Greta, could you respond to one of these questions with what you learned about in the movie?
I'll do number 2.
Okay.
So,
how did the government help the new white people move in? And then what did they do against the Nez Perce?
well, I think that they would probably be helping the white people by trying to kick out the Nez Perce and giving them a smaller area, because then the white settlers get a bigger area of the land. And the actions that they probably took against the Nez Perce, where they think it said once that they didn't give them what they were supposed to give them from the treaty, and they didn't go by what they agreed on it for the treaty.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Sienna, could you can still add on to number 2 if you want, but could you answer a little bit of either 1, 2, or 3?
Like Greta said, the government was supposed to be helping like the Nez Perce move into their land, but instead they helped the white people like give them less land so the whites have more land.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Who was I gonna do next? I had it and now I don't see that person. So Mr. Noah, could you explain a little bit?
What?
Could you tell me maybe number one? Why'd the white people start moving to the west into their home?
Because there was gold there, they found gold and they wanted to have the gold, so they tried to kick out the Nez Perce.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Oliver.
I also have something to add on to number one.
Mhm.
They also wanted to begin moving on to the Nez Perce homeland because they thought that they had too much land and they wanted to take more.
Okay, thank you for sharing. How about would somebody be willing, so somebody who normally doesn't speak, to tell me a little bit about number three? What does the land mean to the US government? Okay, and then how does that tell you about the different beliefs? Jacob.
So, so for number three, I thought that the U.S. government's actions show you that gold was very important to the U.S. government because there was lots of gold found on Nez Perce land.
Okay, so that monetary value. Monetary means like money. Okay. Matthias.
I think the land to the U.S. government means just lots of gold.
Mhm. Yeah, they thought of it, yeah, that monetary. So it was more for the goods or the meanings of things, or not the meaning, but um, the physical value. They could get gold there. They could use it to make money for their cattle, stuff like that. Okay, so I'm trying to find really quickly. Well, we'll go on to the next one. So, ladies and gentlemen, our question for today is: how did the conflict between the Nez Perce and the US government reveal differencing in cultural beliefs and values? Okay, so what we're going to do is we looked at that film and we're going to figure out how does this film and novel build your knowledge of how those cultural beliefs are, and then we're going to collect this evidence, this information, to develop a topic statement in a contrast paragraph. Okay, and I wanted to show you. Ooh, it's right here. I might be glitchy for a second. What we are working towards is actually we're going to end up doing this on Monday. Is our assessment of a compare and contrast paragraph. Am I glitchy at the moment?
Actually, you're not.
No? Oh, okay. Interesting. It's my page is loading. So we are gonna, as you know, we've been talking about these compare and contrast paragraphs. So we had the example. Let me pull it up. Language arts of here. We looked at this example where we had the coyote and the monster, where they compared and contrasted this. What we are going to do is we are going to eventually, so on Monday, we are also going to write a compare and contrast statement of how the Nez Perce thought of the land and how the government thought of the land. So let me just show you what it's going to look like, okay? Because I want you to know why we're doing these things. So we're going to find, so we're using evidence from our book and we're using evidence from this video, okay? And we are going to end up writing a paragraph about how the Nez Perce homeland was different between the government and between the Nez Perce, okay? So again, it's going to be looking at the Nez Perce and the US government and why was the homeland different, or why was it important to each of them, okay? So we talked about the government really quickly, but we haven't really talked about again. Let's review, why was the land important to the Nez Perce? Can somebody raise their hand and tell me, anybody now? Riley, why was the land important to the Nez Perce?
Because it was their traditional homeland, and also it wasn't just land to them. It was like very important with all their resources, their food. It was more than just land to them.
Yeah. Harper, do you want to add on to it?
I think what Riley said, and that it was really sacred to them because it was so rich in like all their resources, and that's like their land that they had always used, so they wanted to stay in it and not be moved out of it.
Yeah. Greta?
Like what Harper said, it was really sacred to them because in chapter 3 it described how Chief Joseph he grew up in that land, so it would be very sad if they had to move out of the land because it was like something that he was always a part of.
Yeah, and like he said, many of them, I mean, they go up there, if you remembered his story, and they either survive and they get a name or they die up there. So it's kind of a spiritual, it's a way of becoming, in their sense, their way of becoming a Nez Perce person. Sienna, did you want to add to anything?
It's where they lived and where they were like raised and where all of their like food come from and stuff like that.
Yeah. And not only where they lived, but are their ancestors buried there? Yeah. So their family is buried there. They were born there for many, many generations. Oliver, did you want to add anything? I see your hand was open.
Like what Sienna said, it was their homeland, and it was where they lived.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Okay. So open up 16A. So, so what you did yesterday is you looked at 15. Oh goodness. Let me get we looked at 15A, this evidence organizer. And this was in the book. Okay, so we found evidence in the book about what it meant for Chief Joseph. We found out what it meant to Tehulasote, and we found out what the land meant to Sound of Running Feet. Today we're going to focus more on the video, and we are going to we're focusing more on that government section. So yesterday we looked at the Native Americans, and today we're going to look at why it was important to the government. So we have this first quote. By 1855, increasing numbers of settlers looking for land and prosperity expanded into Nez Perce country. That year, Washington Territorial Governor Isaac Stevens established a reservation of nearly 12,000 square meters. Okay, so why was this important? This was the first step in doing what? Moving the Nez Perce Or who?
But he preserved most of it.
Yeah, so this was important because, so I'm going to write here, um, uh, this was the first step to move the Native Americans or to move the Nez Perce, right? But, Nez Perce, okay, and to make room for the settlers. Right? So they wanted the Nez Perce, or they wanted more room for that settlers, okay, so that they could live and find gold. Okay, and like you said, yeah, he tried to preserve it. Okay, so well, first, I mean, just putting them in an area. So the Lapwai reservation. Okay, what I want you to do then is I'm going to read the second one. I'll give you a couple more minutes to write this down. It's hard to see if I'm going too fast or too slow. Okay, another quote in the video was, just 5 years later, prospects discovered gold and the US government demanded new treaty talks. In 1863, new negotiations led to a 10-fold reduction. So that means that they reduced it 10 times in the land for Nez Perce. I want you to write by yourself now. Why is this evidence important? Why does it show about what the land meant? So what was the government wanting? Okay, and how did it affect what was it with their beliefs and values? So take a moment and I want you to elaborate on this quote. What does this quote mean? In just a moment, I'm going to ask for people to share. Need to find emojis. How do you guys find your emojis? No, not those emojis in the chat. You just copy them from online.
No, there's a button on our keyboards, but since you're on the computer, it might be different.
Yeah, I see that.
You right click if you're on a computer. You right click and something will pop up that's like fonts and emojis, and you press that and it'll bring you to like emojis.
No, I still don't have that. Let's see. Yeah.
For me on my computer, and I'm on a Chromebook, I press like I put two fingers on the like type of mouse thing, and then it pops up as like you can paste or copy something, and at the top it says emoji, and I just press that.
Yeah, you must have like in the Chromebook an extra extension. Yeah, I might have to copy and paste some. That's okay. Or maybe put a different keyboard in. Put an emoji keyboard in. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. So, ladies and gentlemen, could somebody elaborate on this? So, 5 years later, prospectors. If you if you've ever watched Toy Story, you know how the guy Toy Story 2, the guy's name is Prospect or Prospector. It means somebody who discovers gold. So that's actually, yeah, that's the name. Okay, Could somebody explain to me, how did you elaborate? What did you write? Harper, what'd you write?
I wrote that is the next step, and it made them move away from their home into an even smaller area because they had found gold.
Uh-huh. Riley, do you want to add onto it?
Yeah. I wrote the government wanted treaties to be signed, and so he could have the land.
So they move the Nez Perce to an even smaller area because gold was super important to who? The natives?
The
Government.
To the government. And this meant more money. Yep. So they moved the area to an even smaller area of land because gold was much more important than people, right? So more important than humans, people. Okay.
Yeah, typically what he's like saying, because why would he move the people if he cared about them more than the gold?
Yeah. Okay. Finally, and I'm going to have you write something and turn it in. So this is going to be by yourself. In 1877, the Army ordered the non-treaty Nez Perce, so 750 people, to move onto the reduced reservation of Lapwai, Idaho. So could you elaborate on this? So what did they do? So we said the first step to move the Nez Perce, then they made it to a smaller area. Then those that didn't want to, what they do? They just gently let them go, or did they force them? So elaborate on this. Tell me a little bit more about this. When you're done, I want you to turn it into Schoology.
How much people didn't sign the treaty at first?
750.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. So let's see, where's my Lectura? No, language arts. It told us in our PowerPoint yesterday. There you go. So those were some of the facts, the HOs. Okay, so what I want to do with a little bit of the rest of the time that we have left, I want to think about, I want to pull up a couple things. So turn in that sheet. I want to pull up our old PowerPoint. Was it 13? Transition words. Yep. So turn this in. Then I want you to find handout 15A and 16A. Ooh.
We're just on 16A, weren't we?
Yep, we were just on 16A. And then I want you to find 15A. And if you've got a Post-it note or something, I want you to put a Post-it note on 15A and a Post-it note on 16A. Or if you're notably, have them both together. Oh, maybe I put it in. Two, I want you to have these two. So this one and this one. So what we're going to do tomorrow I'm going to prepare you a little bit today. We're going to talk about it today and we're going to talk about it tomorrow. Is tomorrow you are going to have our assessment, focusing question task 4. And what we're going to do is we are going to write a compare and contrast paragraph, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to use 15A with the Native Americans. So we've got evidence from our book, and we've got evidence from this from this video on the government side. I also wanted to bring up, and if you've got them still, you should find them as well. Remember our transition words? Remember how we wrote these down? If you can find these, I also want you to find these, okay? So yes, today or tomorrow, we're only going to do them in English, but you were supposed to write these down somewhere, and because tomorrow you are going to have a chance to use them, okay? And I want to just review today, what are some of the parts, okay? We're going to get you, because I want to set you up for success. I want you to get an A on this, okay? And really quickly, can somebody tell me that my baby was crying, but it's just my cat. I want somebody to tell me, what are some points that we would put in a paragraph? What is one thing we're going to put in our paragraph tomorrow when we write it? If you're not sure, look on my WebEx, my screen. What are some things that are in a compare and contrast paragraph? I heard Harper or Riley.
Transition words.
We're going to have transition words, yes. What else? You can just come on the web and tell me.
Evidence and elaboration.
Ooh, evidence and elaboration. I heard that. What else?
A concluding statement.
A concluding statement. And then finally, what is the first thing we're going to start off with?
A topic statement and also a hook.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to write it down. You can just watch. Okay, so remember, we're going to do two topic to sec or to see, and then e, and then conclusion. Okay, so to sec. You know, actually, what's really funny or really interesting is right now, 6th grade is also doing this, and I was talking with the other 6th grade teachers yesterday, and almost all of their paragraphs are like this. And I said, hey, we're doing that in 5th grade, and my kids are really good at this. We practice this a lot. Yep. So we're going to have a topic sentence. We're going to have evidence and elaboration. And in the first paragraph, and actually let me put a title on this. So this is for a compare and contrast. Okay. Oh, and we also said you might want a hook. Okay. So, or like a capture, something to capture the attention. So specifically, evidence and elaboration and conclusion. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, specifically in a compare and contrast thing, the first evidence and elaboration. Remember, we've got in a compare and contrast, we've got something we're comparing and something we're contrasting. Okay. Now, usually, you don't have to write this at all. I just want you to pay attention. We're going to review it tomorrow. Okay? So remember, our first compare and contrast that we looked at a while ago, it was way last week. Where is it? Remember, the first evidence and elaboration was the differences. Okay, so you should also have your first, or if you wanted the second, I'm okay with that. It actually doesn't matter. But this first compare and contrast should be, in general, you should be contrasting. Okay, what are the two things that you think we're going to contrast tomorrow? What are the two types of evidence we're finding? How the homeland is important to who?
Nez Perce.
Mm-hmm. And who?
The government and the government.
Yep, so we're going to compare and contrast the Nez Perce and the government on their ideas of their homeland. Okay, does that make sense? So then my second would be how they're similar. So how do they both like the government, or do they both like? Actually, why don't you tell me? Why are they similar in why they like it? So ideas of the homeland.
They both like the homeland and how it's abundant with so many different resources.
So it has many resources, and they both love it. What else is there to like about this area?
Maybe maybe some of the Nez Perce is excited to get like blankets from the government, but in reality they won't very much.
Yeah, so they can benefit from each other. Yep.
So I think like the Nez Perce like it because it's their traditional land.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, okay, so that would be a contrast. What are some things that are similar? So we've got things like resources, food, water. What else is there what other resources do they both like?
There's gold on it.
Okay.
There's gold on it.
But did the Nez Perce care about the gold? No. What did they both like that were resources?
The cedar trees.
So the trees, yeah, so for building. Was it like, so if you think about Idaho and that area, is it kind of like the climate, is it a decent place to live?
Yeah.
I would say it's pretty easy to live there. It's not like living in the Antarctic or in the super hot. Okay. We said that they benefit from each other while using these resources. Can they learn new things from each other too? On the land? They can learn how to hunt. Here, what else can they do? Yeah, you don't have to write this. We're just kind of preparing for tomorrow. Why else do they like the homeland? Why else do they, what's our question? Our question again, to let you know.
There's lots of food on on the Nez Perce homeland.
Yeah, there's lots of food. So let's see. The question is, again, how are their beliefs and values the same? So we're looking, at the beliefs and values. How are their values and beliefs the same? That's what we're looking at. Do they both value the land? What other beliefs or values do they have that are similar? Beliefs and values. Do they both believe in some sort of spirit, usually?
Yes.
Yes.
The Nez or the Nimipu believes in the spiritual that named them, and usually they're the settlers believe in God.
So we've got spiritual from the land and then Christianity. Yep, there's a lot of Protestant, Lutheran, spiritual, spiritual. Oh, goodness, I cannot spell today. Spiritual. Not going to let me. Christianity. Okay, what else do they have that's in common with their beliefs and values?
They both believe, like, I know how to, I know when it's in my mind, but I don't know how to explain it.
Okay, well, think about it for a second. Do both of them just want to live good lives? Yeah, so like we said, some of them want to move to live and have their religion. Some of them just want to be able to raise a family.
That's technically what I was going to say, but like in a different way.
Yeah, they both want to raise a family, right? Or be able to trade, right? So not necessarily to make money, but to trade and have more goods. So actually, that's what we talked about a little up here. They are learning from each other. Okay, and then you would have a conclusion. So to restate what we're going to do tomorrow, and I'm gonna re-talk about this tomorrow as well. Okay, and so you're going to use these two. Okay, and you are going to handout 15A and 16A, and we are going to make sure that it has all these parts: a topic sentence, evidence, elaboration, and a conclusion. You're going to talk about how they're different and how they're the same. Could somebody tell me really quickly, what were some of those transition words? What were some of the transition words that we had yesterday? You can just come on over and tell me. Both?
However.
Uh-huh. What are some more?
Similar, different, but also.
Mm-hmm.
In conclusion, and.
Ooh, very good. But the opposite, we could say, right? What are some other things that might mean the same? They both, yep. So we're going to use this. Oh.
It was already on there. I didn't see it.
Yeah. In addition to. So.
Alike?
Ooh, they're both alike. I like that. Or they're both different. Yep. So we're going to use those transition words when we compare and contrast. Okay. Awesome. Any questions for today? So you know what we're going to do tomorrow? So tomorrow, we are going to review this, okay, since we've already kind of talked about it, and we are going to elaborate on it. Ooh, I used that word, elaboration, okay? And we are going to write our paragraph comparing and contrasting tomorrow, okay? Your homework for tonight is to read for 30 minutes. Oh, this is not your class. This is Lectura Lenguaje. So you need to read for 30 minutes. And that is, and make sure that you've turned in this paragraph, okay? You're going to need it tomorrow. Okay? You can leave. Have a great rest of your day, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.